I will now call to order the November 10th, 2015 meeting of the Traffic Review Advisory Board. Good afternoon and welcome. Traffic Review Advisory Board reviews items of interest regarding parking and traffic within the City of Oshkosh. We are an advisory board, and our favorable recommendations today will go before the Oshkosh Common Council. The council can accept or reject any recommendation from this board. If the board does not recommend an item and you don't agree with our decision, you may discuss the item with any common council member, and the council member may sponsor a new ordinance regarding the item. All items recommended by this board require 2 readings before the common council. The first reading will take place on Tuesday, November 24th, 2015 at 6 p.m., and you will be allowed to comment on the item at that time, though the council will take no action. On Tuesday, December 1st, 2015, the item will be on a second reading, at which time the council will take action. You will again be allowed to speak to the item. For this afternoon's meeting, I will read each agenda item, at which time, if you would like to speak, please step up to the podium and give your name and address. I do ask that you keep your comments pertinent to the agenda item you're speaking to. The item will then come back to the board for discussion and action. Okay, first item is approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, something new we've got is the public comment period. The board has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for the general public to comment on a first-come, first-served basis. Citizens must provide their name and address and may speak on matters related to traffic issues within the authority of the board. Statements should be addressed to the board members and not to staff or other persons. Items that are on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read and not during the period for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only provide comment one time unless special permission is granted by the board. Anybody that wants to make a statement during this portion? Seeing none, we'll move to new business. Item 1, a request for no parking 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on school days on Southland Avenue, north side, from 813 feet east of Westfield Street to Eagle Street. The current condition is no parking from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on school days on Southland Ave, north side, from 1,065 feet east of Westfield Street to Eagle Street.
This basically is, there was a loading zone that was created, it looks like about in 2012, and when that loading zone was created, it created unintentionally, I believe, about a 200-foot gap where the school has requested that be corrected, because what's happening is you have no parking, then there's like a gap of 200 feet, and then there's a loading zone, and they don't want people parking, and a couple of the students have gotten smart enough to figure out that wasn't signed there. So they're just asking if we can correct that and make that no parking up until the loading zone, and then a loading zone. So I believe that's how it was intended to be. I think it was just probably either an oversight or an error when that loading zone was created.
Yeah, Dan.
I don't see anybody from the school district here, but, I mean, I certainly don't have a problem doing it, but wouldn't it make more sense just to lengthen the loading zone, because that gives them added benefit too? Again, it serves the same purpose. Again, I'm open to either option, but that would seem...
Yeah, I mean, we could do that as, I guess I don't really have a preference. They had asked for the no parking is what...
Well, but it's, yeah, and again, I'm certainly willing to honor their request. I just didn't know if anybody explored that as a potential option too.
Anybody else have anything on this?
Move it.
Second.
Oz?
Aye.
Herman?
Aye.
Schuster?
Aye.
Ross? Oops, excuse me. Szynski?
Aye.
Schwanschneider?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Item 2, a request for no parking on Church Avenue, south side, from Division Street to 124 feet west of Division Street. The current condition is no parking south side from Division Street to 124 feet west, Monday through Friday.
This is a request from the police department. Sergeant Harris is here. He's the one that requested, so he could speak to it if you had any questions. But basically, this area is no parking, and it's up here in Division, at the corner of Division and Church here, so it's this area here. It's currently no parking Monday through Friday, and the police department's putting up temporary no parking signs on Saturdays, and they've been doing that basically 21 weeks out of the year during the farmer's market, and it's getting cumbersome to do it over and over. Sergeant Harris has talked to Mr. Leatherman, who's the farmer's market lead person, and he's supportive of it. I believe the reason it probably was only Monday through Friday was with the thought that parking was needed maybe for farmer's market or a special event on Saturday.
Okay.
There's also a little, and then the other issue is that it's a little difficult to see with the amount of pedestrians there. It's difficult to see around the corner when vehicles are turning from Church onto Division. So there's a concern with the pedestrian safety as well.
Any other discussion?
Move it.
Second.
Haas,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Szynski,
Aye.
Schuster,
Aye.
Wandschneider,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
motion carries 0.
Item number 3, a request to close Mill Street between Wagoo Avenue and School Avenue. The current condition is a through street.
Okay, we have Alexis here from our planning department, and then Mr. Gordy from our public works, and I'll let Alexis speak a little bit to this. But the gist of this is that the neighborhood association was interested in doing some public art or beautifying that green space there. That's basically here in this triangle. If you see, Mill Street comes up here, and there's this triangle in the middle between Mill, Bowen, and Wagoo. So originally they were interested in this, in a little island here, in doing something there. And initially when staff discussed it, the thought was that that's such a small area, and we didn't want to create an obstruction for traffic there. But when we were talking with Public Works, they noticed that this is on the agenda for reconstruction in 2018. So Planning and Public Works talked about it and thought that if something was going to be done there to create some type of public art or create some type of beautification, that during the reconstruction would be the time to do it and potentially fix a substandard intersection as well as offer up more green space. So that's kind of that's the agenda. And Alexa, you can maybe speak a little bit more about, you want to speak a little bit about the neighborhood funding aspect of it?
Sure. There's a program called...
You want to step up to the mic just so you can...
Hi. So we have a program called the Great Neighborhoods CIP program, Capital Improvements, and so the Stevens Park Neighborhood Association submitted a project proposal, and like Jim said, it would include some kind of beautification and art project. And the existing triangle is small, there's no sidewalks there, so we recommended that it would be a good opportunity to increase the green space. And so through the program, we can offer funding for the neighborhood associations, and it includes murals, public art, terrace trees, or community gardens.
So So what I'm asking for at this point from the board is I thought it'd be appropriate, since it's dealing with potentially closing off a street, to bring it to the traffic review board for a recommendation or advice on whether this is a good idea or not, before we go forward with, submitting the funding requests and going forward with the neighborhood funding request, I guess, is the main issue right now.
Mr. Godey? Yes. If you'd like to, could you give us a little bit of, from your perspective as Public Works, because you handle all the streets, how's the impact going to be on the street then, or how are things going to impact the citizens that are being affected by this street closing, and now they have to go out to Bowen Street, or their driveways will have to be extended? And how will that affect what the planning department wants to do?
Essentially, this came up as essentially from my perspective, came up as a chance to eliminate a substandard intersection, as well as essentially shorten the street that the city has to maintain and not have to construct back in. So partially cost savings, as well as eliminating a substandard intersection. The driveway aprons would need to be lengthened from what they are today out onto Mill Street. They would actually provide out onto Bowen Street access then versus Mill Street. You would only have to be concerned about, it would eliminate some of the guessing for southbound Bowen Street traffic, whether they're going to be turning onto Mill or continuing southbound on Bowen Street. From that point, it would also essentially eliminate kind of that cut-through motion. It should help reduce some speeds in the area without being able to cut down Mill Street and continue southbound on Mill Street for a period there without having to actually come down to the intersection of Otter and making the 90-degree, well, a little sharper than 90-degree turn at that point in time.
So we would continue to have Otter and Wagoo be one-way streets as they currently are now?
Yes, no changes to any of the streets.
So they're just kind of taking where that beautification project is and give them a little more room to
Essentially, it benefited out in that. It wasn't my original, when I was coming up with this,
Right.
that wasn't actually the design behind it, but it worked out well and melded together from this perspective.
Okay. And then we would still be doing the utilities that need to be done in that section of Mill Street, even though that would be closed off, right?
There are two sanitary sewer lines under that. One of them dates back to the 1920s to the early 30s and would likely be removed. One or two laterals would have to be put over to the newer sewer interceptor. We do have water that basically runs right down the west edge of the Bowen Street curb line extended, so that will require some work in there. And the storm sewer location's not sound. So a good chunk of Mill Street will need to be torn up with utility work. By all means, would all of it have to be torn up? No, it is in good condition, but if it's the closing, it's going to be, now is the opportunity to take what we already have half or better of the concrete out versus putting it back into.
Well, some of these people have small terraces. We wouldn't be going, the green space or the right-of-way they would still have that little bit of right-of-way and the sidewalk and everything else, correct?
I was not proposing to move the sidewalk at all from where it is currently on the west side of Mill Street. Part of it was so that it continued there to define where the right-of-way was for the property owners at that point in time. Tends to just keeps everything defined with having the sidewalk there. And then they would have a larger green space for snow storage out in front from the snow plows, so hopefully they wouldn't have the snow plows up on the side, the windrows up on the sidewalk to have to shovel all winter long.
And you probably don't have this answer, but I'm just going to throw it out there. There is no proposed down the line that the Bike Pedestrian Committee wanted a bike route down that Mill Street area, and all of a sudden we took something away and they got to reconfigure. I don't know how that plays into it, Mr. Collins, if you would know.
Sure, yeah, Mill Street's not currently proposed on the bike and pedestrian plan. I believe Bowen is as a recommended facility for, we talked a little bit about it, the reconstructed Bowen's going to be 34 feet wide, so that wouldn't allow for a bike lane. It would potentially allow for a Sharrow.
Very good, thank you.
I had a question on the driveways. Do the homeowners have to maintain those for like snow removal? And
The driveway aprons are the responsibility of the homeowners to approve, so they would have more area.
yeah, I mean,
To
that's
remove-
considerably more. I mean, they basically don't have, like, the one's got like a huge driveway, and And the other ones were pretty long too, compared to what they currently have.
In the same sense, while it is a little bit more area, they should also have more area than to store snow off of their apron, where right now they have a very limited terrace when they're trying to clear their apron and actually finding a place to pile it. You shouldn't have to pile it as high during the middle of winter immediately off, because you'll have a larger space to be able to store it. We did also discuss as part of the process, since the city is incrementing this change, that we would not assess for the additional apron cost upon the initial installation. That would just be part of the project cost for doing it. The homeowners would only be, if there were an assessment for the apron, only to be put back what was originally there. And the city would assume the rest of the cost.
Ask some questions. I look at ground zero here.
Well,
One of the few homeowners that live right there.
if you want to step up to the podium and give us your name and address, please.
Sure.
Then you
So I can
can
walk over and show you where I live. I live in Washburn Trinity Lutheran School. I spoke to two people, two persons, and they said, I'm not sure exactly who they are. They know who they are. One was a woman, one was a man. I heard a lot of stuff they didn't even bother telling me about.
Can we get your name and address,
My name is
please?
Roger Bartel.
Okay,
I live at 323 Bowen Street.
okay.
I grew up in this town. I moved here when my parents passed away. I was emancipated at the courthouse at 15. I worked my whole life here, and now I'm on federal disability, Social Security disability. And this is the house that I ended up being in, and I'd like to be there as long as I can maintain it. You recently did School Street. It added $6,000 to my tax bill, and you demanded that I had my sewer fixed. And when you did that, I had to come up with $3,000 I didn't have. It almost made me lose my house. Now they're proposing all this. They're going to make the driveways longer. I have disabilities. It's going to be harder for me. I spoke to two people here, and this lady raising her hand and this gentleman there. I asked them if there's anything going on. Is this the part of the planning commission? He said no. Finally, later on, I got out of him after questioning that something on the south end they're going to do. And I says, I know this works. It works in increments. And this intersection, I live right there. I've been disabled for the last 5 years. I've been sitting in a chair pretty much watching the street. It works very well. It's a relief valve off of Bowen Street. You have Otter Street, which goes to the east, and Wagoo, I believe, goes to the west, if I'm saying that correctly.
Other way around.
Oh, yeah.
Other way around, okay. And I have a school across from me, and during school time, you got your school guard out there. Traffic goes slow. There has no been accidents on that corner. Have you heard any? On the other side, they've hit the pole that's real close to Bowen Street, by the school side.
Yeah, I did look at the accident history, and there really isn't much there.
And it's really safe for me to pull out off and not on that non-busy Bowen Street right now, and so it is for the other people. And according to the proposal, I said, the school uses that parking along Wagoo for all their activities. A lot of cars park there and along school and everything. I don't mind that at all. I think that's an asset to the public. Granted, it's a private school, but they do good things there. They're going to lose all that parking. And where's the sidewalk going to be? It's going to be by my house. I was told there might or might not be parking on Bowen there. I told them they're going to lose that parking. So if there is, does that mean they got to, in the winter, they got to jump that big berm of snow that the plows put there, walk through that snow and walk onto my sidewalk, to walk to the curb, to walk to where it's the proper place to cross the intersection? Or are they going to be standing in the street where potentially somebody could get hurt? Think about this stuff. People use this. I enjoy watching all the boaters go straight down Mill. My house was built in 1868, one of the oldest ones here. That street's been there forever. The police officers, this guy right here, he'll tell you, he can talk to his comrades, they constantly use that as a turnaround. Like you put those roundabouts in, nobody liked them? Well, that's considered like, they use that as a roundabout. They'll stop, turn around, zoom back the other way. It's safer than them having to go around and turn in somebody's street, cutting off traffic. They can turn their lights on. People can see them clearly from all directions. It does have its, and I'm glad what this lady's done with upgrading it and stuff, but that street, just today, I've counted over 250 cars going down it. And it is a relief valve for when traffic backs up right by the gas station at Citgo. There's a pizza place across the street, Hustler's Pizza, and then there's Don's Tavern, which used to be Tony's. It was built in 1888. You're going to make all the traffic, that's the pinpoint to turn right, going to Main Street. There's parking on both sides of that. You go turn that corner and you live down there, they don't park right. People come in there drunk, they park half-cocked in there, you come around that corner, there's people walking across the street, and it gets jammed up. When it gets jammed up, it starts backing up towards where I live, people will turn down Mill Street as a relief valve to just bypass that. It's a very nice option, because you only have one way to go west, other than if you take Mill. And then, what is it going to cost me? Now I find out all these are going to come up. I'm just trying to make it by. I almost lost my house this summer. I had to renegotiate with the bank. Right now, they're in the process of City Hall getting my records, and I'm redoing my loan. I told them about this, and they said, well, we ran across this from before. I've got Harp from Detroit. They said, this is something called if they keep doing beautification projects, it comes to the point where you can't afford to live there no more because I'm on Social Security, a limited income. One of the few people there that live on a limited income that actually own the place. And I'm ground zero right there. I just see a lot of faults in this. I could keep going on and on. All I ask is more time to review this. I could give some papers to the people. All these people that use that street for parking, it's a very safe way to park. So you're not on Bowen, they can walk down the sidewalk and go to that school for events going on. There's a lot of children there, and they have a lot of events going on, basketball, whatever they all do in there. It's very safe for the neighborhood. It's better than being on, and then if you do it the way you got it, there is no parking, and the sidewalk's basically useless, and they lose that parking. And I enjoy watching all them boaters drive down there to use that Mill Street dock. It's been that way since they've been running logs up that street. It's a historic district. And now you want to beautify it, that's great. You did a very good job. But don't be closing down a very good street. Police officers use it all the time to turn around quick and go back. Constantly. So watch them. He's probably done it himself.
Sir, your 5 minutes is up.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Just consider holding off, and I can let people know about that actually use this, other than people that don't use it but would like to put art there. I'm all for art, but I'd like to see the kids in the neighborhood safe too.
Sure. Thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Collins, to his comment, right, currently there is no parking on Bowen, right, on that,
Right.
along there?
We did look at that. We could, I could add parking on Bowen if when we do the reconstruction, because the reason it's there now is because of this triangle.
Who's going to pay for the
Right.
double sidewalks?
Okay.
There's no parking here.
And then, Mr. Godey, no matter what, whether the street gets closed or not, that's still a street that's in the capital improvement budget to have the work done. It's got nothing really with closing the street to whether we do the street improvements, right?
Correct. It's part of the plan with the underground utilities in Bowen Street, or it's incorporated in there. Depending on what happens, may change the amount of work we do.
And that's all part of our stormwater, sanitary sewer flooding issues, and it's all connected to all that. So no matter what, Mill Street's going to be redone.
At least a good chunk of it will at least be torn up and redone with the utility work.
Okay.
And the tie into the intersection.
And so the only savings would be that we wouldn't concrete it, because that would end up being green space, that little bit of Mill Street there.
Correct. We wouldn't necessarily have to pay to put the concrete back down. They may have a little bit extra removals, but
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
How wide is Bowen Street presently?
34 feet.
And it's going to stay at 34 feet after reconstruction?
Correct. We're going to match the existing cross section.
So I guess my question then would be, how would we add parking to it if we closed Mill?
Because right now, the reason there's no parking here, it's because of this goofy triangle
Well,
here.
there's no parking on that entire stretch of Bowen Street.
No, there's parking down here.
Yeah, there's parking across from Jansen's. I used to live in the house.
Oh, yeah, from across from
No
Jansen's,
parking
yeah.
anywhere around by me.
From school
Yeah,
south, there's no
yeah,
parking.
yeah.
Yeah, there's parking down here. Right now, the main reason there's no parking is because of this goofy intersection. So there's no parking on this strip between
Okay,
Bill.
do we know how wide from school to the north? Because you allow parking, is that a little wider than the rest of Bowen down there?
No, it's all 34. It's just a matter of, I think there isn't enough curb in this area to allow for parking with the intersections and the vision triangles that it was not allowed on the west side.
So then if you add parking onto Bowen Street, do you add it to the east or west side?
It's on the west side, on the further up part.
Okay, so then
But it's not a-
you're gonna need sidewalks on that new green space adjacent to the parking,
Purpose to a
which, yeah. So now all of a sudden you have two sets of sidewalks.
Well, I think the proposal was to leave the sidewalk where it is.
Yeah, but if you had
Yeah,
parking
you're
there
right,
though,
then
then you
it's-
technically are supposed
It's
to.
harder to access.
Are they gonna climb over where the plows plow in the winter, and they're gonna walk out in the street?
Yeah, and then who would be responsible for it? You know, it's,
One child getting killed, is that worth it?
it's,
Drill down a little farther
Sure.
to the,
What you wanted to look,
the area in question up by Trinity.
Is up
Oh,
right
Down,
there.
zoom
okay.
in.
you wanna look at the
Street views.
street view?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we,
Find it, I can-
you flip us 180 degrees. Well, that's Mill to our right.
Yeah.
That's the one-way street that
Yep.
goes.
There we go.
My house is that one on the very right by the stop sign.
The other way, I think.
You had it, yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had it. Right there, leave it right there. That's good. So then, that would be closed off, you'd have parking on the
Sidewalk's way
east
over
side,
where the
east side
white
of
car
that,
is.
and
The
the
bumper's
sidewalk.
touching the sidewalk.
You'd almost have to take, like, my thought would be to take the island almost out that's there, if you're gonna do this, and move it all to the west, so that you wouldn't have to put another set of sidewalks in.
Which is why I wanted to see it from
Yeah.
this view, to see what kind of distance we're actually looking at, because.
Because
it's all
that little bit of
hypothetical.
mill is 30, I mean, it'd be almost,
Bowen had
I'm just gonna get
24
up,
feet,
but
Had a
wait.
no sidewalk there.
the way to make this, to me, it's like eliminate this and make that part of the street and move this over to Mill Street. Otherwise, it's all that green space.
Well, but then how do we get that white car out of that driveway?
Right. Well, he's gonna have to back up. That's the one that shows here, the wider driveway backing up to Bone. He's gonna have to come out onto Bone Street.
Right,
That's how
but
you
then
plan it.
he's backing up through the island.
You would have a shorter.
You would have a driveway through that green space.
Yep, which is,
Two driveways, actually, probably, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
One is like a double or triple wide.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're adding, yeah, you're doubling, well, you're adding 34, more than 34 feet to get to Bone Street.
If I may speak, right
Mills-
now the Bowen is 34th Street. That's all they're recommending. There's no parking on either side. They don't plan on having parking there at all. They're taking that street away, which everybody uses for parking, and it's off of Bowen Street right now where it's busy. Children are able to walk that street to the corner where their school zone is and then cross at the school zone, which makes a lot of sense. What you guys are doing right now, everybody's scratching their head right now trying to figure it out.
Just for reference point, Mill Street is 32 feet wide at this.
Here too, okay.
Cool. Thank you.
It would make more sense if you made Bowen wider there, added parking in that section, and then added the sidewalk next to it.
That's what I'm saying, if you're gonna eliminate that little section of Mill Street, it's almost like taking that green space and moving it west.
Yeah.
Putting it where Mill Street is, and then make Bone Street.
If they want a
You know,
bike
and
trail,
I
they
guess,
can
you
use
know,
that sidewalk.
my thoughts on it too are, you know, the gentleman was saying that, you know, the fishermen use that to get down to the Mill Street landing. Now all of a sudden, you're having big trucks and trailers having to make additional turns, and if they have to turn there at Otter, if, you know, if that's the way they choose, then we're gonna have to revisit all the parking along Otter to get those trucks and trailers swung, versus right now, it's a straight shot, right down to the river.
If I can add one thing to that, just because we're redoing Mills, we've been evaluating that. It's only very small vehicles with boats that can use that landing because of the turning radiuses and the way it's set up right now.
Oh, no,
I've used it quite a few times with a full-size pickup and a 20-foot boat, so,
Wow, well, we haven't,
I see the ones
we
that
haven't been
go
able to
down
see
there.
how those are getting down there, but
yeah, I've used it
Have you
many
been down there,
times.
sir? Have you actually been in that neighborhood? I've lived there since 2005. I've been disabled, sitting in the chair, watching out the window, watching the neighborhood
I know.
for the last 5 years. I can give you very good insights of what goes on at work.
I remember years ago, like I said, I used to live on the corner of Bowen and School there. They tried making Mill Street and Bowen a one-way system between School and Steepy, and then they ended up changing it back within a year because it just didn't work out. So I think this would be a costly thing that won't work out either.
Another thing, the police use it all the time. They'll also see lights go on. They'll use that as a quick turnaround to get back the other direction. They'll actually come speeding. They're speeding more than anybody, so they got their lights on, everything like they're supposed to.
Well,
They'll use it as a turnaround to get
Yeah,
back the other direction.
yeah, we heard that, sir. I guess my concern is I think that this really is something for the plan commission to hash out along with city council. I don't know that traffic review really should be,
Well, the request
Stepping
came to
into
us,
this.
so we have to make a vote on one way or the
Yeah.
other. And it's also probably because of, maybe, well, Parker will come back to us too, but.
Yeah, I think what we're looking for is just the
Yeah.
traffic review's advice on it, whether they support it or not. And then, obviously, if the neighborhood association wants to take it further, then yes, it would ultimately go to plan commission or council for, where it ultimately be approved or denied. But as the transit advisory, or traffic advisory board, we just wanted to get your input on it, and if you think it's a good idea or not, and then we can forward that on to the appropriate governing body.
Could I say one thing for 10 seconds?
yeah, 10 seconds.
Since I live in that neighborhood and you guys are the advisory board, I just wish you would take a little bit more time in looking at this plan. They could come up with a lot better one.
Thank you.
This isn't going through until 2018 if it...
Yeah, it's scheduled for reconstruction in 2018, but we thought it was appropriate to at least start getting feedback,
Out of it, yeah.
so it could be planned accordingly one way or another.
I agree with that.
Yeah, too early.
You know, I think the concept and the idea of having more green space and having more opportunity for the neighborhood association is good. I guess the only way I could conceivably support it would be to basically take Mill Street and turn that into the green space, and what's already green space would be put back as part of Bone Street, so that parking could be added then to Bone Street safely. And I agree with the gentleman that the school is busy, and the church too, and the parking sometimes overflows when there's, busy church services and that down Mill Street. I used to go to that church, so. But anyways, then I would support it, but under current making all that wide and everything else, I don't really think I think we would have some serious safety issues, in my opinion. But under this current design, I don't think I could support it.
Anybody else on the board have any comments on this? Get a motion?
I'll move it for a vote.
Second?
Oz?
No.
Herman?
No.
Kaczynski?
No.
Schuster?
No.
Wandschneider?
No.
Becker?
No.
Lost. 0.
Okay, item number 4, a request to clean up errors in the municipal parking code.
These are just a couple quick things that, as our sign crews are out there doing maintenance on signs, these are just a couple things they noticed. One was on 7th Avenue, the footage was a little bit off. There's actually a driveway and a fire hydrant between where there's some 1-hour parking, so we're just requesting to clean that up. And then on Minnesota Street, it's already signed for 2-hour parking, but it's not in the code. So it's more just to clean up the code than anything else. As we're discovering these, we're trying to get them cleaned up.
Makes sense to me. Move it.
Yep.
Second?
Oz? Herman?
Aye.
Kaczynski?
Aye.
Schuster?
Aye.
Weinschneider?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 6-0.
Okay. Staff statements.
All right, I wanted to update the board on, because I know you've discussed this in the past, previous to my time here, but I know this has come up pretty frequently. I know I get a lot of calls on it, and I'm sure some of you do maybe as well. But I just want to give you an update with where we're at. There's no formal action or anything on this item, so I just wanted to do it as a statement where we're at, and Mr. Godey's here as well too, so he can maybe help me answer some questions. But the school district, the county, and the city have met a couple times to discuss the traffic issues in front of Traeger Elementary and Middle School. As you know, I know most of you have been on this board for a while. These issues have come up over time a number of times, mostly in conjunction with requesting a traffic signal. So the school district engaged a consulting firm, Strand and Associates, to perform a traffic study in 2007. So recently, with the new superintendent and the new building and grounds supervisor for the school district, they were interested in re-engaging that discussion. So when we initially met, what we asked them to do is to update the traffic study, and the group came up with a few alternatives for them to evaluate. It's a multi-party effort because it is a county highway in the city, and the issues basically caused by the school. So we discussed a couple three alternatives, and I've attached a summary on the three alternatives and their advantages and disadvantages. The three alternatives were basically, one was traffic signal, and you can kind of look through, I won't go through all of it, but the traffic signal, all three of the alternatives helped with traffic. The main reason the committee didn't like the traffic signal, well, number one, it doesn't meet traffic signal warrants, but the overriding concern was for safety, because signalizing that intersection would create some issues with currently what we discussed on Murdoch in Wisconsin, for example, where you would have offsetting left turns, and if a car was turning left, potentially the vehicle in the curb lane would be blocked. So there's some issues with that, and then the fact that it wasn't warranted. So the county didn't support it, and the city didn't support it from a safety standpoint or from the traffic warrant standpoint. Another alternative was to potentially create a one-way in and out, and then do some traffic signals internal to the school site. So what that would be is more of directing traffic within the school site, but it would take some of their green space from their front fields there on the south side of the school where the soccer field currently is, and that would also potentially create more conflicts internal to their location with the traffic circles. There'd be a traffic circle on the east side and one on the west side, basically in front of the school there. So we discussed those two alternatives and decided that there were more disadvantages to advantages of those two. And then the third option we discussed, which Strand and Associates liked and the group liked as well, was the potential for a roundabout out on 20th Avenue. And that would eventually come back to the Traffic Review Board for approval of creating a roundabout intersection there. But anyway, we felt that that was the best alternative. They were going to make a couple tweaks to that alternative. One of them was move it a little bit further west than where the existing driveway is to minimize the impact on the resident's driveway immediately to the east of the driveway. And then also there's the landscaping business on the south side, so trying to work in conjunction with that as well. And then Mr. Godey suggested a couple internal options. One would be relocating their handicap parking that would help with this issue as well. So where we left it is they were going to re-engage Strand and Associates to further conceptualize this idea. And in conjunction with that idea, another nice thing that it would do is it would allow for a road diet, basically from the roundabout out west past the YMCA. And what that would do it would create some more traffic calming in that area as well, and would allow for potential bike lanes eventually as well. That area, there's a couple subdivisions that are that are going to be constructed eventually, so it would help with the neighborhood and the traffic calming in that area as well. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add to that, or?
Just a question I have, in these engagements, any discussion on the school district helping pay for any improvements and the county paying for any improvements? But
Yes.
It's not all on the cities?
Yes,
end of
that's,
it?
yep, that's a good question. And that's why we haven't finalized it yet, because Strand's initial cost estimates were really ballpark figures. So when they get the concept a little nailed down a little bit better, we wanted to get what their estimated cost was. But the school district is going to be participating in it, and the county sounded like they were willing to participate as well. We just haven't come up with who's going to do what yet, or who's going to contribute what, but yeah, that definitely.
And this is probably a question for Mr. Godey. We made that, or the city made that a 4-lane road in that section mainly because north side was residential and the south side is more commercial, correct? Was in that area? On
For 20th Avenue? 20th Avenue is a mapped arterial in the comp plan. As a result, it's recommended that it be a 4-lane roadway in our comp plan. That's what it was built to. It has the right-of-way for that.
So doing a road diet, wouldn't that kind of take away from the comp plan of it being a 4-lane?
It is a change from what the comp plan is. Based on the traffic volumes and what it is, it still meets the goals of the arterial to move traffic well. It'll provide some traffic calming since it does have some residential, much more residential than a true arterial would ideally have. A lot more driveways in that, especially as you get east of Oakwood Road. Although we're not proposing the road diet at that point in time there, but
Yeah.
to the west, there is a subdivision plan to go in next year, immediately west of the YMCA. So that'll increase some turning movements out there. And there has been some concept plans floated for the large vacant area on the north side, almost just kind of on the western end of the YMCA property on the north side. So that's been between multifamily, commercial, combination development. So there is the potential for a lot of growth and traffic increase out there and some increased conflicts that
And
burns.
do you know down the line, is this area up for, 20th is in pretty good shape, but would we be doing any digging for storm sewers, sanitary sewers, that we could tie it in if we did a roundabout in that area and make it, you know?
We actually have to do some sanitary sewer work out there for the subdivision next year a little bit. Otherwise, the deep interceptor sewer was installed in, I believe, 2010 and followed the creek up to the intersection of Clareville and 20th. So we do have a little bit of, I believe, a crossing out there to do eventually. But a lot of it is, we're going to try to limit the disruption to the existing concrete pavement, so we're not planning any wholesale utility changes at this time.
And Mr. Collins, just when do you anticipate something, 16, 17?
Yeah, I would say once Strand comes back with their finalized plans, which we are going to be meeting again internally this next month, then we can discuss the financing options. Once we get agreement, I would say we're probably looking at, the school district would hope to get something done probably next summer. That might be a bit aggressive, but I would say either 2016 or 17.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Can I speak? Yeah. Okay. One of the things I wanted to bring out is, as a teacher and been in a number of schools, the one way in and one way out was probably the best procedure that I saw at two of the schools, where everybody just comes in horseshoeing around and back out. It's very organized. Kids can all get out on the safe side. You don't have back and forth in two different directions. And so I found that to be a much better way of doing it. I think as far as the roundabout idea, a little more expensive, but it takes away, it gives you more hardscape again. So I do question if that is the route to take. I think the third item was,
Traffic signals.
yeah. And along with the traffic signals, you do have a short amount of time in the AM and a short amount of time in the PM where you're going to have to use them. And whether it's an hour, 10 minutes, or whatever it is. And this is the busy time of school opening and school closing. And I don't think that we have to look at that there's delays because it's not 24/7 and it's not all day. It's just for that short little time where you're going to have delays. And I think people today are too impatient. And in many cases, you're almost near road rage. And they don't like to be inconvenienced. But schools are schools. They've been there. Whether you go South Park or no matter where you go, you got flashing lights and you've got slowed down traffic. That's a fact of life. And doesn't matter if you go out in California where you got 6 or 8 or 10 lanes. You got the same problem just with more volume. So I think a cheaper procedure, in and out, goes faster.
Yeah, I'll just, couple quick comments. But anyway, the school district was opposed to that option of having the horseshoe out front. Their main concern, I believe, was the loss of green space, because they have the soccer and football field up there.
Yeah.
But we did discuss that, and that was the main objection. But, I mean, I agree with you, and it is, and I can speak from personal experience because my kids went there, and I know Mr. Godey's go there now. But in a perfect world, the kids would walk and bike to school. But unfortunately, this issue's been going on since probably the school was built, and it's I do get frequent phone calls about it, and I know the board's considered it a number of times. So, and the school district as well gets a lot of calls about it, because what happens, especially in inclement weather, is so many parents are dropping their kids off. It backs up, and it takes a good 20 minutes to get out of the parking lot. So that's what's caused the issue, and I guess we've debated that, over the years, and it's, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to consider something, but we know that this is the reality of what's happening out there, and that's how it got to this point.
I feel compelled to talk on this. I've seen this from both sides of the table, as I think most people know. I actually sat on the school district's Facilities and Finance Committee when this whole thing started, and I agree with Ross. The solution to the problem is internal to that Traeger parcel. It was a poorly planned design when that school was built. No one was forward-looking, and I made the suggestion, Ross, 8 years ago, when I was sitting on that committee, to make the horseshoe, or either around behind the building or use the space in front. And it met, no pun intended, with a big roadblock from school district officials, because they didn't want to actually utilize that space, but it's there. And now we're tentatively looking at putting the cost of this solution on city taxpayers and county taxpayers. Whereas, I would argue the county taxpayers really don't have a vested interest in this. I mean, the folks in Neenah really shouldn't have to pay the cost of this. I would argue that if the problem's going to be solved, it's best funded by the school district, because it's a broader tax base than just the city of Oshkosh. So unless they're willing to foot the lion's share of the bill, I'm advocating for status quo. I mean, Ross is right. It's a short-lived problem twice a day.
That's right. It's not, and rainy days aren't every day.
We're not taking a vote on this?
No, I just wanted to give you an update where we're at. It'll come
Got
back
more than you
again.
asked for, but.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The issue's gonna come back at some point once we can, I just wanted to make sure you were all in the loop.
Yeah, I'm not a sarcastic guy, but I got into a discussion on drop-off and, at Nina. And, there was quite a wide space between the lunch area and the gymnasium. And I suggested they put doors on either end so that the parents could drive their kids into the building and then out the other way. Because, again, the issue was the rain, and they're going to have to, go 20 feet out in the elements. I mean, there is a time we got to draw the line.
Okay. And then the only other thing I had for staff statements is, right now I'm planning not having a December meeting. I'm actually at some transit training in Chicago the week our meeting is scheduled. So I will, unless something urgent comes up, then we'll reconvene in January.
Anyone else have anything, or?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up about possibly making a lane reconfiguration at Westtown and Washburn. You have currently, if you're going east on Westtown to take a right onto Washburn, it's the right turn and straight are connected together on the same lane, and then left turn onto to go towards 21 is a single lane. I was suggesting, since the straight lane only goes into the quick trip, I was suggesting adding the left turn and straight together and then having the right turn, because the right turn backs up now, and most people going to quick trip are coming off of 21. I mean, the only people going into quick trip from the way it's currently set up are like coming from Menards or Festival Foods or something. Like I said, the vast majority of quick trip customers are going to be coming off of 21, both east or west, because there's no residents in the area at all.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to take a look at it. I can take a look at it.
Just wanna maybe for
So you're asking, instead of having a right through lane?
There isn't a right through lane. It's right and straight and,
Right.
and left. I was suggesting putting the straight with the left.
Instead of with the right?
Yeah.
Right, I got you, okay. There's always advantages and disadvantages to that. That issue comes up quite a bit on Highway 21 or Amro Road with Westtown and Emmers Lane. It used to be where it was a left and through, and then in the right turn only, and now we have the right and the through. So that issue, it's kind of 6 one, half dozen another. It's, no matter which way you go, you get complaints, because either, the people, so if you have a left and through, then the people going straight are getting held up by the people going left, and if you have the right and through, then the people that are turning right that want to make the permissive right are getting held up by the people going straight. So I'll take a look at it, but
I'm patient.
Like I said, most people are going left or right. Very few are going straight. So.
Yeah, I guess I'll look at it and see. I'm sure there was some history there and why it was set up that way, but we can definitely take a look at it. That one is, and you're talking about the signalized intersection,
Yeah, it
right?
goes in
So,
quick trip on the one side.
so that would have some implications on the traffic signals as well. So I'll have to look and see what's
It's going to be
possible.
adding more traffic now with the Dick's and PetSmart opening right to the right of that.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, definitely can take a look at it.
Yeah. We get into the school discussion. I thought of something on Wisconsin Avenue that exists, and that's north of Murdoch. You have a four-way stop going north, let's say if you're traveling north, at Viola, which dead ends a couple blocks to the west. And yet you get to the next block is Linwood, and that's two-way stop, and that's a main racetrack from North High School. And I don't know what the records are, accident-wise, but I'm wondering, wouldn't it be more prudent to have the four-way on Linwood as they're coming from full blast from Vinland already and going who knows how far, whether it's Jackson or Maine or whatever. I think it's worth considering changing it to four-way at Linwood. I don't know if that's ever been thought of.
I've thought of it.
I'm not sure why they put a four-way at Viola, but
Yeah, I always wondered that myself,
Yeah, it doesn't make
kind of,
sense.
yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I can take a look at it.
Yeah,
No, there is already so there's one's a two-way and one's a four-way.
Yeah.
The only thing we have to be careful with is the manual for uniform traffic control devices does clearly state that you should not use stop or yield signs for speed control.
Right.
Yeah.
But if there's
Well,
other
but-
reasons.
Then use it for
What's the
safety.
justification for a
Right.
four-way stop at Viola
Yeah.
versus at Linwood where it's
Is that
a...
church there on Viola? I wonder if that got put in so congestion at the intersection. People couldn't get across, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you used to have the Knights of Columbus Club there, but that's...
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yeah, that's gone now. So they all exit out on
Well,
Jackson.
no, they still come out the back,
Yeah.
the Dollar Tree there, but it's, I've never
much
seen a
traffic.
big
No.
issue with that, no.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I'll definitely do some research and see what I can learn.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know if there's an accident rate at Linwood there or not, but it makes more sense to be four-way there.
Anything else?
Move to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If anybody here is interested